Good morning, good afternoon, bonjour, bon dia to all our participants joining us today from across Africa and around the world. Before we begin, I would like to briefly go through a few housekeeping announcements. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available after the session. Simultaneous interpretation is available in both English and French. Please select your preferred language by clicking on the interpretation icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Also, please keep your microphone off during the webinar. And finally, we encourage you to submit all your questions using the chat function at the bottom of the screen. On behalf of ACI Africa, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, From Commitment to Impact, Elevating Women in African Aviation. Over the next hour, together with our distinguished speakers, we will explore how African airports are turning commitments into meaningful action and measurable results, while creating more inclusive workplaces and expanding opportunities for women across our industry. The aviation industry is at a pivotal moment. While important progress has been made in advancing gender equality, women remain underrepresented in many technical, operational, and leadership positions across our sector. At the same time, airports are increasingly recognizing that diversity and inclusion are not only matters of equity, they are key drivers of innovation, stronger leadership, improved organizational performance, and long-term sustainability. Today's webinar is an opportunity to move beyond discussing why gender equality matters and focus on how organizations can transform commitment into meaningful and measurable impact. Through this session of today, we'll explore practical initiatives, hear inspiring experiences from across the continent, and discuss how airports can create more inclusive workplaces where women can thrive and lead. Now, allow me to introduce myself. Next slide, please. My name is Adia Fatou Banenjai. I'm the Manager of Training and Administration at ACI Africa, and I will have the pleasure of moderating today's session. We are honored to be joined by distinguished speakers who bring a wealth of experience in airport leadership, human capital development, advancing gender equality across our aviation sector. We will have Mr. Fabrice Grandin, President of ACI Africa, Mrs. Valérie Renard, Consultant at Limac AIBD Souma, Blaise Diagne International Airport of Senegal, and finally, Mrs. Rhoda Warioko, Manager Learning and Development at Kenya Airports Authority. Without further ado, let us begin our discussion with our first speaker, Mr. Fabrice Grandin, the President of ACI Africa. This part of the discussion will be in French, so these English-speaking participants can use the English channel for interpretation. Good morning, Fabrice.
Good morning, everyone.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour Banel. Alors, je suis très heureux aujourd'hui de participer avec vous et avec l'ensemble des aéroports ou de ceux qui sont présents. Et puis, bien évidemment, de mes deux prestigieuses également panélistes, Valérie et Rhoda, à cette initiative que la CI Afrique a organisée. Et puis, bien évidemment, très heureux également de pouvoir aborder un tel sujet qui est la promotion des femmes dans l'aviation africaine. Banel, je te laisse la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Fabrice. Ma première question pour toi sera, disons, Monsieur le Président, l'égalité entre les femmes et les hommes est aujourd'hui reconnue comme un enjeu stratégique dans de nombreux secteurs, y compris l'aviation. Pourquoi ACI Afrique en a-t-elle fait l'une de ses priorités stratégiques et comment cette ambition se traduit-elle concrètement à travers des initiatives mises en place pour accompagner les femmes dans les aéroports africains?
Alors, une question sur laquelle on ne peut qu'être engageant au niveau de la CI Afrique, puisqu'il faut savoir que ce n'est pas un impératif que de promouvoir l'égalité, euh, l'égalité entre les genres, mais également promouvoir la place de la femme dans les directions d'aéroports, dans notre secteur d'activité. C'est un atout stratégique. Et un atout, pourquoi? Puisque dans les capacités de direction, dans les performances opérationnelles, on sait détecter aussi dans tous les pays africains les talents que l'on peut avoir, le leadership incontestable et incontesté de femmes au sein de nos organisations, leur performance et bien évidemment leur point de vue avec de l'innovation. Vous l'avez ici à l'écran, tout est retraduit. On peut bien évidemment puiser dans un vivier de talents à travers les femmes africaines dans nos organisations et dans le secteur de l'aéronautique. Le leadership, celui-là, on n'en parle pas, puisque bien évidemment, les femmes, autant que les hommes, peuvent prendre de très bonnes décisions. La performance, aujourd'hui, on voit qu'au sein des équipes, associer hommes et femmes ne peut contribuer qu'à faire avancer des projets, à promouvoir des projets en tout cas. Et puis, en termes d'innovation, des échanges d'idées, hommes-femmes, ne peuvent qu'être créatives et puis stimuler également euh, euh, l'avancée dans tout plein de domaines dans notre secteur d'activité. C'est pour ça donc que la CI Afrique a décidé d'en faire un atout stratégique dans son plan stratégique. Vous avez ici à l'écran donc l'engagement de la CI Afrique, l'engagement qui a été pris et qu'on a signé avec le secrétaire général Ali Tounzi, la charte qui donc fait de l'égalité homme-femme au sein de la CI Afrique et de tous ses adhérents pour la promotion de la femme au sein de notre activité. Aujourd'hui, on a intégré l'égalité entre les genres dans notre stratégie, stratégie qui court jusqu'à 2028, mais bien évidemment, un sujet comme celui-là ne s'arrête pas à 2028. Je pense qu'il est parti pour durer assez longtemps et même c'est quelque chose qui doit être ancré et scellé dans la stratégie de la CI Afrique. C'est vraiment fondamental. Et nous nous sommes basés sur 4 piliers pour mettre en place cet engagement et confirmer, solidifier cet engagement de la CI Afrique. Il y a bien évidemment la charte sur l'égalité des genres dont on a parlé. Il y a également une initiative phare pour l'évolution des carrières des femmes dans le secteur de l'aviation, grâce à des programmes ciblés avec un programme qui s'appelle Elevate Her. Ensuite, on a mis en place également des bourses qui permettent aux femmes d'accéder à des formations professionnelles, des certifications dans la gestion aéronautique et les métiers techniques dans le domaine aéroportuaire. Et puis, au final, nous avons également une partie sur le développement du leadership avec des programmes qui sont destinés à préparer les femmes à occuper des postes à responsabilité dans notre domaine d'activité. Donc, c'est là-dessus vraiment que la CI Afrique s'est engagée à travers ces 4 piliers et nous nous faisons fort de les promouvoir à chaque fois que l'on se voit et puis à travers les équipes de la CI Afrique. C'est un engagement que l'on a pris et on s'y tient. Nous avons ici également à transformer les engagements en résultats. Je parlais tout à l'heure d'engagement avec la charte qui a été signée, avec des actions qui ont déjà été lancées, avec l'initiative Elevate Earth, avec les bourses d'études, les programmes qui sont aujourd'hui connus de la part de nos membres, mais que nous devons davantage faire connaître et qui doivent être également davantage promus au sein des femmes dans nos organisations. Il y a également la mesure de ce que nous faisons. Donc nous devons suivre la participation, la représentation, éclairer sur les résultats, les communiquer, puisque ça ne doit pas être quelque chose qui reste uniquement chez nous à la CI Afrique, c'est ouvert à l'ensemble de nos membres. Donc il faut vraiment comprendre que nous faisons quelque chose pour nos membres, pour tous les aéroports africains. Et puis, l'impact, bien évidemment attendu, c'est l'accroissement de la représentation des femmes et la promotion des femmes au sein de nos organisations et favoriser leur évolution professionnelle. Voilà les 4 points, les 4 engagements que nous avons, au-delà des 4 piliers que nous avons vus tout à l'heure. Donc, à chaque étape, nous allons communiquer et faire savoir, faire connaître ce qui a été mis en œuvre, les résultats, et puis ce sera quelque chose qui, je l'espère, va continuer à vivre dans nos engagements et à travers nos membres.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, pour cette réponse éclairée. Ma seconde question pour vous sera de savoir, en fait, dans votre présentation, vous montrez que l'engagement seul ne suffit pas et qu'il doit se traduire en fait par des résultats qui sont concrets. Au regard des actions déjà engagées par ACI Afrique, quel impact observez-vous aujourd'hui et quelle est votre vision pour accélérer les progrès en matière d'égalité de genre dans les aéroports africains dans un horizon d'ici 2030, disons?
Alors, nous devons investir, comme je le disais, dans le devenir, dans le futur de la jante féminine au sein de nos organisations, au sein des aéroports africains. Donc, on dit donc investir dans les futures femmes leaders qui vont être dans nos comités de direction, qui vont être à la tête de direction ou de service. Les métiers aéroportuaires sont multiples. Sur un aéroport, on peut compter jusqu'à 100 à 200 métiers différents à travers toutes ces composantes. Donc, il nous faut aujourd'hui davantage de femmes leaders en Afrique dans ces activités. Et c'est les programmes, ce sont les programmes de formation et de développement d'ACI Afrique, notamment, qui accompagneront ces femmes à prendre demain des postes à responsabilité. Par exemple, en 2025, ce sont des centaines de professionnels qui ont acquis des compétences. Et de plus en plus, on voit que des femmes s'accrochent à ces formations, mettent en place, vont acquérir des compétences, des connaissances pour pouvoir demain occuper des postes à responsabilité. Et c'est vraiment le but recherché à travers cette démarche et cette charte que nous avons signée au sein de la CI Afrique. Par exemple, pour 2025, nous avons eu près de 900 personnes formées à travers les programmes de la CI Afrique. Sur ces 900, il y avait environ un quart qui étaient des femmes. Demain, nous souhaitons arriver à minima à 50-50 en proportion de personnes formées, puisque, encore une fois, les femmes ont toute leur place dans nos organisations. Donc, on a bien évidemment de la formation qui est structurée, du mentorat, donc un programme qui a été établi et ou avec des cadres supérieurs ou des personnes déjà professionnelles et dans le métier qui vont accompagner ces hommes et ces femmes, on parle ici davantage de femmes, pour qu'elles prennent connaissance de ce qui est fait et qu'elles s'intéressent et puis qu'elles puissent également, pourquoi pas demain, occuper ces postes à responsabilité dans l'encadrement supérieur. Et bien évidemment, occuper demain des postes à responsabilité au sein de toutes les organisations que nous avons sur nos aéroports. Voilà, Banel. Les perspectives d'avenir que nous avons, je disais, nous avons un programme aujourd'hui, un plan stratégique qui s'arrête à 2028, mais avec un thème comme celui-là, il n'y a pas d'arrêt. C'est une continuité. Bien sûr, les femmes vont toujours évoluer et c'est ce que l'on souhaite. Donc, nous avons une vision aujourd'hui que l'on appelle 2030. D'ici 2030, l'organisation ACI Afrique envisage un secteur transformé dans lequel les femmes ne seront plus l'exception, mais devront et pourront occuper des postes à tous les niveaux dans tous les aéroports du continent. Et ça, c'est un engagement que l'on prend, que de les accompagner et de promouvoir cette transformation. Alors, à travers, je disais, des rôles techniques, du leadership, arriver à des postes de PDG, de directeur, il y en a déjà, mais nous devons accompagner et faire en sorte qu'elles prennent encore plus de place. Il peut y avoir bien évidemment toute la partie représentation et puis des lieux de travail inclusifs, c'est-à-dire à travers l'Afrique, mettre en place vraiment des plateformes tant sur le plan culturel que sur un autre plan où les femmes auront toute leur place. Et nous avons ici en exemple deux distinctions sur les programmes élévateurs que vous avez à l'écran et qui caractérisent ces perspectives d'avenir pour promouvoir encore plus la jante féminine au sein de notre activité. Vous avez ici donc la signature de la charte que j'ai faite moi-même avec M. Ali Tounzi, notre secrétaire général, et bien évidemment, où on ne peut que confirmer que l'égalité entre les genres dans le secteur aérien africain est une nécessité et nous faisons tout pour le promouvoir et nous faisons tout pour créer un écosystème dans lequel chaque femme pourra s'épanouir.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le
Merci.
Président, pour ces
Merci à
éclairages
vous.
inspirants.
Merci pour votre attention.
Merci. Nous retenons donc de votre présentation et de ces discussions que l'égalité de genre n'est pas seulement une question d'équité, mais également un levier de performance, d'innovation et de développement durable pour les aéroports africains. Et à travers des initiatives telles que la Charte sur l'égalité des genres, le programme Elevator, les bourses et le développement du leadership, ACI Afrique démontre qu'il est possible de passer de l'engagement à des actions concrètes et à un impact mesurable. Donc maintenant, nous allons découvrir comment cette vision se traduit sur le terrain à travers une initiative innovante mise en œuvre par l'IMAC AIBD Souma, gestionnaire de l'aéroport international Blaise Diagne de Dakar. Now we will hear from Mrs. Valérie Renard, consultant at LAS Dakar Airport. This part will be done in English.
Thank you, Adia, and thank you, Fabrice, for this presentation also. And we're happy to see that the place of the woman is so much open for into the African aviation. But I still would like to, before we start, just to share a little figure. Today, there's 41% women in the global aviation workforce, but only 31% hold senior management position. And on the African continent, it's the lowest regional figure globally. So women are in the workforce, but they are not still in the rooms where the decisions are made. And that's where we want them to be.
So thank you, Valerie. Thank you for sharing with us with these statistics. And so today you'll be sharing the initiative called Les Étincelles developed by LAS Bezier International Airport. So before taking us through the program itself, could you tell us what challenges Dakar Airport were trying to address and how the reflection led to the creation of Les Étincelles program? Thank you.
Thank you, Adia. So I've been working with the Dakar Airport for quite a long time now over a different subject, but this one was really an initiative they wanted to address definitely as something really important. Normally, in that kind of case, what typically the organization will do is that either they will recruit more women, they will do training, they will set target report. But the thing is that what LAS has decided, they made a specific choice not to wait for the sector to change, but to act inside its own organization. The question they asked was not how do we recruit more women? They already had talented women. And the question was, what's actually preventing them from leading? And the answer was not skills. The answer, it was posture, the internal permission to take up space, to negotiate, to lead visibly. And this is a different problem. And it can be seen differently. It's not a training gap. It requires a different kind of intervention. And so that's why they decided to do something different in order to address this situation. When you invest in women's leadership, it's not a social gesture, it's a performance decision. A 10% increase in women in key management roles is associated with an average of 6% increase in market value. So this is the business case, and that's why LAS moved from commitment to action. And they've decided to set up this intervention, which is called Les Étincelles, the sparkles. And it's really an engineered intervention. Let's go to the program. So if you can skip to the previous one. So thank you. So this intervention, Les Étincelles, is a 4-month structured program, 12 women from LAS and 4 progressive stages, which has been worked with them. So first one is know yourself, position yourself, reveal yourself, and embody and transmit. Each stage closed with a formal review, not just content consumed, but really behavior assessed. So collective in-person coaching, personal coaching, weekly video modules, learner workbooks every week also. Accountability pairs, so they were working with in this group of 12 people, they were also working in pairs in order to continue the work between the session, and continuous follow-up between the session. It's a sorority group which has been created, not only individuals which had been promoted, but really something else that has been developed. It's not a motivation seminar, it's really an engineered intervention, and there has been measurable checkpoints. And what actually shifted in the mind of those, so that will be the next picture. Yeah, next one. What was observable at the end of the program was really observed. So they stopped asking permission to speak in meetings. They really took the space. They named their limiting beliefs, including the imposter syndrome, which is part of what really will reduce the expansion of women. And they managed them instead of being running by them. They proposed initiatives they would have left to others before. So there will be force of proposition in meetings now. And the managers saw it directly. They have seen more confidence, more leadership presence in their teams, and a peer network which has been formed between those 12 women and really outlasted after the program. At 2 weeks ago, that there was the graduation ceremony, and the manager and the ladies who were part of this program, they were present together in the room. And the participants, they stood up, they spoke about real situation, negotiation, they handled differently, a decision made without waiting for validation, the difficult conversation they chose to start. So really they could see that there was a drastic change in their posture, in their way to occupy the space. And the fact that they were already talented with skills has been really expanded. Have you got other questions, Manel?
Yeah, thank you, Valerie, for sharing this part. And now, can you maybe just talk about how they felt, let's say, how they felt after the program, and how as the airport can, what as the airport can learn from this program also?
So in their own words, how did they felt? They felt moving from doubt to confidence, from discretion to assertion. They dared to ask top management for support on their projects. They eased the tensions. The dialogue become much smoother with their teams. One of them, she was running, she's in the technical space, and she was running team with men only. And she just told me, I made peace with the men I managed. So she really completely embodied the function as a manager, as a young manager, and she now has been able to rule it much more smoothly, and it's much more efficient. So it's not only her development, but it also has increased the performance of the whole team. So they really feel themselves completely different and more. They had let their ambition express also, and they're willing to lead and manage and develop a team. What other? So just to be honest, also after 4 months, no one has been promoted yet, and I will not pretend otherwise to this audience. But what exists in this trajectory is that they now position themselves as the next generation of leadership. So the next job offers that will be open, they will be the one that will be chosen at first, because they will be the one that has been into this program, that has been able to change the way women and leadership has been run into the organization. So in their daily behavior, you can see the change, not just their ambition, and the manager already sees it, and they have positioned them for the next level, for the next one that will be in charge.
That's great. So thank you, Valerie, for sharing this. Thank you, Valerie, for sharing this program of Les Étincelles from Dakar Airport. You have shown us how commitment can truly be transformed into impact by investing in people, challenging mindsets, and creating an environment where women can confidently lead. Now we'll explore another perspective on this journey. While we have just seen how an airport has invested in developing women leaders, our next speaker will show us how Kenya Airport Authority has put gender equality into its day-to-day operations. So it is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Rhoda Warioko to share KA's journey.
Thank you, Manel, for having me. And
to
my fellow speakers and also dear participants, good morning, good afternoon. Rhoda Warioko is from Kenya Airports Authority, and we are here to share our journey through the gender equality. And Banel, it gives me a lot of pleasure to be talking about this discussion, also sitting in the ACI Africa HR and Leadership Committee, where we are steering gender equality and also matters of gender to ensure that in Africa we are able to take it to the next level. Thank you, Banel.
Thank you, Rhoda. So my first question for you, Rhoda, will be, Kenya is often recognized as one of Africa's leading countries in promoting gender equality. Could you begin by explaining how this national commitment has influenced Kenya Airport Authority and laid the foundation for your effort to advance women in aviation?
Thank you, Banel. That's a very good observation and a very good question. And it is true to your word that Kenya has been leading in the region in terms of gender equality and also inclusion. And that this has been made possible because of our constitutional reforms and also the legislation implementation and also the national policies that has been put in this country. So this has prepared a very good foundation for organizations such as KAA and no other workplaces, because we have a very progressive, I think one of the most progressive constitution in the region that has entrenched gender equality and inclusion. So the conversation about gender equality and also inclusion in this country is not just a mere compliance. It has become a constitutional obligation. And now where we are operating in the aviation, the Kenya
Rhoda, I think we lost you. Rhoda, can you hear us?
We are also on a new dispensation because of an airport authority will be a profit, has transitioned to be a profit-making organization that is expected to be accountable to the public. We are expected to be self-sustaining. We are expected to be self-financing. And also now the gender equality discussion has also shifted. This has shifted because now we are no longer looking at the inclusion and the gender equality as a compliance or just a mere constitutional obligation. We have now moved further to bring this as an operational excellence. So at KAA, it has become one of the strategic pillars in talent management to ensure that apart from complying with the constitutional requirement, we are also creating an impact into the business. And we also recognize at Kenya Airports Authority that when we embrace diversity in many forms, gender equality is just one of them, people with disability and also the marginalized society, we are able to have diversity in terms of perspective, and this encourages, it elevates our performance and also our strategy and also our regional positioning, Banel. Again, some of the things that KAA has done because of this enabling of this environment, it is to showcase our cases. And you realize I'm a very visual presenter and I like using images and photographs of real people, real events to just demonstrate how we are moving. Allow me at this juncture to give a story of two Kenyan women, two powerful women in the aviation industry. And from a national perspective, the two ladies you can see on the screen, there's Maureen Okomo, who is a mother to to Vanessa. Maureen Okomo is actually the first licensed female aeronautical engineering in Kenya. And with that, she also paved the way for her daughter, Vanessa, who is also now an educated individual who has been licensed as an aeronautical scientist in the United States of America. So she has been able to pave way to move from just the Kenyan region to the African region and now beyond the borders. And we are borrowing heavily from the African proverbs because we are proudly so African, that say, if you educate a girl, you're going to educate the whole nation. Again, we look at it that when you educate a man, you educate an individual. I know Mr. Fabrice will agree with me. So we are trying to build a ripple effect to have a healthy community, a wealthier society, and also a strong organization where we operate from. To demonstrate also this further, you can move me to the next. I've talked about the enabling environment, which is entrenched in our constitution. I'll not go to the nitty-gritties of the articles, but you can always access the Kenyan constitution, which is one of the most progressive. And then to also give effect to this the constitution, we have enacted various acts of parliament. And beside the acts of parliament, we also have established institutions that actually monitor on periodic basis. They give statistics to ensure that in no forms of workplace practices, right from the recruitment, from the training, from the promotions, that we have been able to entrench. These policies have entrenched a principle of two-third policy that in any, mostly public and also in private, we should have a representation of at least a third of the minority of the gender. This means you cannot have one gender who are taking more than 2/3 of the positions that are there, whether it's in recruitment, the training. So this has created that environment. So for us in KAA, the approach that we have taken an approach of looking at the entire employee journey, right before the employees come into the workplace, when they are recruited, their capacity building journey, how we do the coaching and mentoring, as the ACI president has mentioned, and also how we are going to build in this pipeline. I can say, Banel, we have not yet reached there, as my other speakers are
Okay,
saying.
thank you,
If you look
Hoda.
at our national demographics, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Hoda. And so, with what you have just shared and building on this strong foundation, could you take us through like all the initiatives that Kenya Airport has implemented to attract, develop, and empower women across different areas and of operations and leadership? Thank you.
Thank you, Banel. Yeah, that building on that positive foundation, as I had mentioned, we have looked at the entire employee journey, looking at when the employee has joined the organization, but we take it back before they join. What is it that speaks to these small girls who are out there to entice them or to inspire them to have that desire to work in the aviation industry in the future? So we have done various programs, as you will see in the next slides, where we are taking girls right from the primary school, when they are in the lower levels of schooling, and we invite them and we have tours with the airport. And this we don't do alone. We have partners with our stakeholders who are operating in the airport. For example, our regulator, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. We are working with the groundless like the Swissport. We are talking with the women in aviation, where we have a Kenyan chapter, and also the other community, especially in our big airport. And we are able to hold these inspirational breakfast and sessions to just encourage these young people to know that there's a career in aviation and to make it a desire. If you move to the next slide, Banel, you'll also see that coaching and mentorship from a very young stage, that we are able to even allow them to go to the airside so that they have that experiential and to feel that one day they just don't want to take a flight. They want to be sitting in that cockpit to drive. You can see that big, one very inspirational photo of very young girls. For us, we take them as 3 women who are sitting in a cockpit with our national carrier, the Kenya Airways aircraft. This is a powerful symbol to progress and also the possibility. So they can tell a story and create in their heart those desire that one day they can also control such an aircraft. As we progress to the next slide. All these activities, of course, I will not play this clip at this point. And this was a special dedication that we did to our firefighters on our happy International Women's Day. What we have done in KAA, we have steadily progressed in terms of enhancing our numbers at all the levels. So we realized there are some positions that are male dominated, especially the engineering. We have the security. We also have the firefighters and security because of the nature of the job. So what we have done, we have intentionally gone to each and every role and looked at the number of women we have recruited. And we have also done the capacity building and mentorship for them. We have also partners with other public institutions. What you see in the photo is one of our discipline forces. We call them the National Youth Service. What the government does, they pick these people after their secondary level and they put them through some programs. So as Kenya Airport, because we are also looking at where we get our talents, we'll partner with them. When this team came to the Kenya Airports Authority, their level of training was on firefighting and rescue, but they were only trained on structural firefighting. We had to convert these discipline men to be aviation firefighters. So we also took them through the training. The men and women you can see in front are actually our trainers and our instructors. They went through our firefighting trainings goes for about 19 weeks training on the ground, both practical, theory. So we were able to convert these national trained youth from just structural firefighters to actually aviation firefighters. We deploy them to the ground and then they go back again to the public. Again, we have also used what we call the reverse mentorship. Recently, we recruited about 100 firefighters, of which about 34% were women. So we are using the same people we trained from the disciplined forces again to come and physically train our firefighters. So it's kind of a reverse mentorship and coaching program that we have implemented as KAA. So those are some of the things that we have done in KAA. And just maybe to mention about the demographics that I was talking about earlier, at the national level, we are not there. But in KAA, if you look at our data progressively for the 5 years, you will realize that we have steadily improved in terms of the statistics. Of course, we have the compliance that we should not have more or less than 33%, but we have been able for the last years to steadily move from women representation in our workforce from a percentage of 33%, and currently we are at 36%. Looking at also at the senior management, of course, that's where we are not doing so well. We have been able in the last 5 years to move from about 11% to also 28%. And here, when we talk about the senior managers, we are not just looking at people sitting in the offices, which has been the conventional for women. We are looking at these women moving from the corporate offices to the big infrastructures, from what we call from the boardroom to the runway. What you see in the picture is one of our regional airport manager, Madam Celine Gore, and she's actually overseeing the construction of one of our airport, the Wilson Airport, and you can see she's on the trenches on the ground together with the MD. We also have women in other sectors like the engineering. What you can see in that photo, those are 2 women that we respect in this authority. And the lady who looks like the young one, she's actually one of our electrical engineers, and she has been able to mentor a lot of young girls. And also standing close to her is actually one of our regional airport manager, Madam Angela Tilitei. Most of you will know her. And she's actually being taken through an installation that had just happened in her airport about the power bank generator. The lady you see there, Madam Coletta, has actually been very instrumental, and she has done big projects and especially unlocked some of the critical issues we had about our power in our major installations at JKIA. So we are trying to spread all that across. Madam Banel, I hope I have adequately addressed that question of what we have done. And maybe just to give some of the key highlights of what we can brag about in KAA as being the progressive. In KAA in 2014, we were able to have our first female CEO, Madam Lucy Mbugwa, who has now been able to transit to be a regional director for ICAO for East and Southern Africa. Of course, we have observed the 2/3 rule across the board. We are now at 36% of women representation. And then in terms of the frontline leadership, both in the board level, the senior management, and also at the operational levels, we are there. We are also doing targeted hiring. And also recently we received a continental recognition that has been shown by the ACI president, where KAA was honored as the one of the most improved in terms of training, 33 women in the operational and also in leadership. That's a photo showing us me. If you look at the lineup of that photo, it is telling that we have a lot of women representation, and we got recognized for having trained 33 women, and we were commended in April 2026. Thank you, Banel. I hope I've adequately addressed it.
Thank you, Rhoda, for sharing these impressive activities, that initiative and activities that the KAA is doing for gender equality at your airport. And now let's say that based on your experience at KAA, what key lessons would you like to share with other airports of Africa if they want to accelerate gender equality and create more opportunities for women throughout the aviation sector?
Thank you, Banel, for that question. And I'll sum up the last 3 slides, maybe in 4. It's easier when I pack it into 4, it will be easier for us to remember. Looking back at our journey at KAA, and because of the interest of the time, I would say that there are 4 lessons that stands out for us. Number 1, it will be change starts with the leadership. From the KAA story, you can see right from the national leadership to the institutional leadership, change has to start from the top. In Kenya or in Africa, we say the fish always rot from the head. So when leadership genuinely believe diversity strengthens its organization, it will become much easier to embed the inclusion into strategy, make a strategic pillar to have gender equality and also inclusion, to allocate resources, because gender equality and also inclusion will require resources and investment, and also to create that accountability mechanism. The second lesson that we can learn from that Kenyan journey is that we need to invest consistently in people. Talent management is a choice. It is a decision we have to do, because we realize that talent does not just develop itself. Women need to access learning opportunities. They need coaching. They need mentorship. And they need also challenging opportunities and assignment assigned to them so that they can build their confidence, and also we prepare them for the future. The third lesson that I'll leave with you, collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. As you have seen, none of us can do it alone. Our partnership with institutions such as ACI Africa, the Aviation Training Institution like the East African Institute of Aviation, the government agencies, and also other professional networks. In Kenya, the current debate is about bringing more women in the senior leadership, and there's a big debate about the CEOs and the board levels that is happening at the UN Women, to ensure that we have more in the top leadership. And finally, Banel, we must be able to celebrate our progress, however small it is. Rome was not built in a day, and we just don't stop there. We say gender equality is not a destination. We have to make it a continuous journey of learning and also improving every day. And we say everyone who steps into a technical role, who leads a project, who mentors another colleague, and who inspires a young girl to pursue aviation, creates that ripple effect that we saw in the first success story. And this extends beyond the borders of our nations and also the country. Thank you, Banel, for that insightful question. I trust my response has addressed it. And if there are any follow-up questions, I'll be happy to come back to them during the next session, time allowing. Thank you, Banel.
Thank you very much, Rhoda, for sharing Kenyan Air Force Authority's inspiring journey with us. So today's discussion have highlighted that advancing gender equality requires action at every level. We have seen the importance of strong leadership and strategic commitment through ACI Africa's vision, the value of investing in women's confidence and leadership through Les Étincelles program, and how these commitments can be translated into concrete policies and initiatives within an airport organization through the experience of Kenya Airport Authority. Now we will open the floor for questions. If you have any question for our speakers, please feel free to submit them through the chat, and we will do our best to address them as many as possible during the remaining time. So now let me just quickly go to the chat and see which questions we have there. So the first question that we have, I think, is for Fabrice. How can African airports incorporate or align the ACI Africa Gender Equality Charter into or within corporate governance framework without contradicting policy framework approved at state level aimed at promoting women empowerment and gender equality?
Oui, donc j'ai répondu à Alexander qui posait cette question. Et c'est vrai que la charte de l'ACI Afrique n'a pas du tout vocation à remplacer les politiques nationales, mais elle peut servir à les compléter et surtout les renforcer. On ne se substitue pas à un État, on est là, nous, pour constituer un cadre de bonnes pratiques qui permet à chaque aéroport dans leur pays de promouvoir l'égalité des chances, le développement des talents, féminins de préférence, et puis une gouvernance inclusive. Mais bien évidemment, tout en respectant pleinement les lois et les priorités de chaque État. On ne doit pas, nous, être intrusifs dans les politiques de chaque pays. Mais en tout cas, on est là, nous, notre approche est fondée sur de la flexibilité. Ensuite, chaque membre de l'ACI Afrique peut adapter les principes de la charte à son contexte national. Et voilà, on est plus là en tant qu'aidant, en tant qu'accompagnant, mais pas du tout, on ne cherche pas du tout à imposer quoi que ce soit.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup, Fabrice, pour cette réponse. J'espère qu'elle est assez claire pour Alexander. Now, for Valerie, we have one question. What was the selection criteria for those 12 women who underwent the training process?
Thank you, Adia. So, and I think there is also another question, so which is that did the program have a part where the rest of the organization are sensitized on the program? So I want to answer to both questions together. The selection criteria were done by the Dakar Airport management team. So there were women coming from each services. So they were coming from the ops, from the communication, from HR, from the technical and maintenance service. And there were women which were already detected as high potential in the organization. So that was the first cohort. So, and the HR manager has confirmed to us that there will be another one hopefully next year. But that was really a test, a pilot, in order to see if there will be an improvement in the organization. And all the company was involved also in the program. So there were a lot of communication about the program amongst the other salaries in the Dakar Airport. They had to participate also, and they had to exchange. All the women were in a perpetual exchange about what has been done, what were the next level for them. So in the different teams, they were really able to communicate, and the men were they were not associated as member of the program, but they were associated in the way it was done, and it was given to the different women. So, and what is interesting is to see that by the end and by the certification, all the management teams were present, were there, were part of it, and they really could see and testify and to share with the others the impact it had on their teams. But also there's a sorority which has been created, and other women now from the organization want to be part of the second cohort in the program. And one last thing I would like to share with you is that I've been attending a panel on a forum on the management, women leadership and management last week. Two of the women of the cohort were there and the audience, and they wanted to share their experience, and they were so much taking their space in the rest of the panel and sharing with other companies and being very proud of being part of this program, and to see how the place of women in aviation is important, and they wanted to share that with other companies from other corporations. And that is also a good sign of that we can share with the ACI to see that, as Rhoda said, when you change a woman, when you educate a woman, you change the rest of the environment. And it was exactly that, to see that once they have been empowered, they really want to share the space with other women. Thank you, Adia.
Thank you, Valerie. So the next question is will be for Fabrice again. Question for Fabrice. We know that visibility and representativity are important. When we look at the ACI Africa board, at ACI Africa panel and ACI Africa panelists during the conference, do you think we are on a path to gender equality? What affirmative actions or incentive is the Elevate Her program able to implement to increase representativity at those levels?
Merci, Banel. Oui, je sais que c'est une question de Yacine qui me l'a posée. Donc, c'est pour nous, je lui répondais, la représentation est un indicateur essentiel de nos progrès et notre objectif est vraiment de créer un vivier de femmes leaders ou de femmes à des postes à responsabilité au sein des organisations aéroportuaires de la CI Afrique, de femmes qui soient capables d'accéder durablement aux fonctions de direction et de représentation. Le programme Elevate Her peut y contribuer, et on parlait tout à l'heure de mentorat, de leadership, d'accompagnement, d'opportunités de formation et de visibilité de talents féminins. Donc c'est là-dessus qu'on est basé. Et bien évidemment, cette visibilité, elle doit se faire à travers tous les membres de la CI Afrique. Et c'est bien pour ça qu'on a signé une charte. Nous encourageons au sein de l'organisation ACI Afrique une représentation plus équilibrée dans nos panels, lors de nos assemblées générales ou lors de nos 2 manifestations annuelles. Nous encourageons également une représentation plus équilibrée dans nos groupes de travail et évidemment dans nos instances de gouvernance. Même si on n'est pas aujourd'hui au niveau attendu, aujourd'hui on est plus à du 20% et 80% masculin. Si on peut doubler la part des femmes dans nos instances de gouvernance, ça ne serait que bénéfique, je pense, pour nous. En tout cas, notre ambition est que la diversité devienne une force naturelle de notre organisation au sein de la CI Afrique et que les femmes soient davantage présentes. Voilà, Banel.
Merci beaucoup, Fabrice. Now, I think I will direct this question to Rhoda because as the Vice Chair of the HR Committee of ACI Africa, you took part to the development of the gender charter equality. So the African continent is characterized by vast cultural and operational diversity across its various regions. How does the initiative ensure that its criteria remain flexible enough to accommodate the unique local specificities of each country or airport while still preserving the high value and competitiveness? Rhoda, can you hear us?
Yes, Rhoda is with us.
Rhoda? You are muted, please. You are muted.
Sorry, Banel. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So if you can just respond to that question, please. Thank you.
Kindly come again. I had lost my network a bit.
Oh, okay. So I said that as you took part in the development of the ACI Africa Charter for Gender Equality, there is a question about that the African continent is characterized by a vast cultural and operational diversity across its various regions. How does the initiative ensure that its criteria remain flexible enough to accommodate the unique local specificities of each country or airport while still preserving the high value and competitiveness?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Banel. The Gender Equality Charter that was developed by the HR committee and approved by the board in the last conference, it is a standard guideline. It is not restrictive in nature. It offers the flexibility, as the president has said. It does not override the national policies or any, maybe the legislation frameworks that we have in our own respective states. Of course, being African, we live in a very patriarchal society, and we have to be very intentional about the commitments we want to take and what are initiatives that we want to take in every step. The best way we can do from the African region is to benchmark with each other to see how has maybe the Senegal, because you can see every other organization or any other airport is coming with its affirmative or initiative to ensure that the challenges, their experiences could also be diverse. As you heard from the last case study, they're saying what they're experiencing is not the recruitment or feeding in the talent pipeline into the organization. It is actually how to move it. Again, we also have different cultural, what I can call dispensation, because from various countries, there's a way the people in that nation will behave or will carry out themselves. Of course, if you say you take some of the states that we have in Africa, look at maybe South Africa, Kenya, you'll also see that the women in Kenya, they are very outgoing, I can say. They're aggressive, they want to go for the position, and now what they're agitating, they have been able to infiltrate themselves into the political sphere and also the senior leadership. And now what they're pushing the government is to do is to create a more enabling environment for them to take those positions. So it has to be, it's not cross-cutting, it's not one fit for all, it's just a standard guideline like the way we'll have any other ICAO or maybe the ACI guideline that give us very generic guidelines on how we can handle. Of course, again, in our HR committee, we have come up with a subcommittee where there's a whole subcommittee dealing and discussing issues of gender equality, and they have come up with various initiatives, like which other guidelines they can make, what training programs they could make. And this webinar, I think, was one of those initiatives, so that we are able to share our experiences to see what works for you and what does not work for you. Of course, we also have to really understand our culture back home to understand where do we start unpacking the whole discussion about the gender equality. And then we also have to look at the platforms that we have in our own countries, or where we can bring this discussion maybe to also push for reforms even at the national level. When ours was brought into the constitution, you could see those were agitations for constitutional reform, so that we move the discussions just not from our organization, not from even the ACI, but also to the national level and also to the regional level. I hope I've been able to address that question, Banem. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished speakers. Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you, Fabrice. And thank you, Valerie, for responding to these questions. Now we are at the end of our webinar. And I think we have tried to address as much as possible some questions and to respond to them. So I just would like to extend my sincere thanks to our distinguished speakers for sharing their insight, experiences, and inspiring initiative. Thank you, Fabrice Grondin, for outlining ACI Africa's vision and demonstrating how strategic commitment can drive meaningful change across our continent. Thank you, Valérie Renard, for showing us how investing in women's confidence and leadership can unlock potential and transform organizational culture. And thank you also, Rhoda, for sharing Kenya Airports Authority's remarkable journey and the practical actions that are creating opportunities for women across the aviation sector. So today's discussions has reminded us that advancing gender equality is not the responsibility of one organization alone. It is a collective commitment of airports, aviation stakeholders, governments, partners, leaders who are willing to turn ambition into action and action into measurable impact. So on behalf of ACI Africa, thank you to all the attendees for joining us today and for your active participation. We encourage you to continue these conversations within your own organization and to take meaningful steps towards creating a more inclusive and diverse aviation industry across our continent. Thank you once again, and we look forward to welcoming you to ACI Africa webinar, activities, conferences, and trainings. Have a wonderful day and a pleasant weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Banel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Banel.
Thank you
Thank
and
you, Rhoda.
goodbye.
Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.